everybody, and can I say Happy New Year, Happy 2014, because it is a new year.
It is 2014.
Yeah, welcome to Tennessee Valley this morning. I am Doc Carbo with Keller Williams Realty. If you didn't learn it in 2013, I want to tell you what my slogan is, okay?
What is
it? Hasn't changed in 2014, but here it is. If you want opportunity to knock, you talk to Doc. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And here's my sidekick, my cohort, my partner in crime. This is Regina Pickle Lewis.
Yes, ma'am.
She's Regina Pickle to me, but it's Regina Pickle Lewis. And so we are happy to be back in the studio today.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you have a good Christmas?
I had a great Christmas.
Did you stay here?
Very relaxing. Yes, I did.
Okay. You didn't go anywhere or do anything special?
I did special Christmas, but it was at my house.
Okay.
Everybody came to me.
Well, good thing.
So.
Did you eat a lot?
Too much. I'm paying for it now, Doc.
Me too. And I was going to make that New Year's resolution to lose weight, but I thought, why bother? You know, you're not going to keep that. Just don't even bother. So.
There's so many football games on during the holidays, and you have to eat. You have to have cheese dip. You have to have pizza. You have to have chili. So
I hear you.
It's a daily thing.
Well, I had the privilege of going up to northern Indiana to see my mom, and I think when I came back down, I think I was the one who brought this cold weather with me. Now, the good thing is, I didn't bring the snow back with me, but I did bring a picture.
That's not a good thing.
Well, we'll see. I brought a photo in, and Joe, if you can put that up on the screen, I want to show you what snow, I wouldn't say in God's country, in the north looks like. How do you like that? That is up at my house, and they got 28 inches of snow, and the snow plows have to pile it up in front of your house all the time because there's no place else to put it. So that roof back there is actually my sister's house, but she can't get out or go anywhere right now.
Wow.
How do you like that? So as a little kid, that was a lot of fun to play on those things and throw snowballs and this, that, and the other. But they had 3 days where if you went out on the street at all, if it wasn't, or drove anywhere and it wasn't an emergency, that you would get arrested.
Wow.
Because it's too dangerous, it's too cold. But that's what 28 inches
Did you sled?
Yep, that's what 28 inches of snow looks like. I will tell you this much, it looks pretty and it's nice, but if you have to be the one that shovels it, it is not that much fun. Shoveling 1 or 2 inches, no big deal. Shoveling 28 inches, oh my goodness, it's backbreaking. It takes forever. So I just thought that you guys who think that, snow would appreciate that photo. Did you appreciate that?
I'd like to have about half that much.
Half that much. Well, anyway, if you need it, head to northern Indiana.
Or 1/28th of that much.
Head to northern Indiana and you can find it. So that's what I did. I did have a white Christmas, as you can tell, so that was nice. But I was ready to come back this way. But when the cold weather came,
to the cold.
Yeah, in fact, the day I left is when they got that amount. On Christmas Day, we just had 2 inches. But the day I left, they were getting hit with this, and I thought, my goodness, it's a good thing I got out, or I'd been 3 more days before I could have gotten out. So,
fun.
So that's what life is like up north. Just thought y'all might appreciate that. Anyway, I also wanted to say in 2014, it's a new year for real estate for me, and I have a great new listing. And so, Joe, when you get a chance, if you'll put those photos in, I'd like to show you what I call my house of the month. And it's a sweet little house, and it's only 2 years old, and it's in the Willowbrook subdivision. So you can see it's got a double garage in the basement.
Where is Willowbrook?
Willowbrook is off of 64. There's the dining area. It's a kitchen combo, but those double doors lead out onto a deck. And the house has hardwood floors in it and ceramic tile. So you can see the ceramic tile and the hardwood there. A nice kitchen. All the appliances are brand new because, well, the house is only 2 years old. It was in that subdivision that got hit by the tornado. So this house was gone and they rebuilt a new house. And this is what you see. And of course that's the living room, all hardwood floors in there. You can see the front entry door. That is the master bedroom, which has its own bath with it. And then I think I've got another picture or two in here that will show, the basement area. So it has the garage, and then this area here is where the laundry is, and then just extra space that you could make a spare room if you needed to make a spare room. So if you're looking for a house like that, we've got it listed at $118,500, and it's in the Willowbrook subdivision. It's 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, and an unfinished basement. So it's a great little area, and like I said, the house is just 2 years old because of what took place here, and so it's just a nice little sweet little property. So if you're interested in something like that or know somebody who's looking for a house like that, it qualifies for what we call rural development loan, which means it's 100% loan if you qualify for it, which is a great thing because then you don't have to bring down payment money, and for a lot of people that's huge. So again, if you know of somebody who's looking for a house like that, please have them give me a call. You looking for a house like that?
Not looking for a house anymore, Doc.
That's right. I forgot. You bought that house with
That's
the pool.
Right.
Okay. Well, this program we are going to have two special guests on. One is Dan Lindeman, and he does home inspections. And you would think home inspections just relates to real estate agents, and we do a lot of that because every house should have an inspection. But at the same time, home inspectors also would come into like your house and let you know if you have enough insulation or if your piping is, you know, needing to be replaced, or if your plumbing's bad or if your electrical is bad. They'll just come in and check a lot of things that a lot of times, you know, a house is old enough you just don't know. And one thing that Dan has is he runs a scanner that can kind of show images inside the walls. And you can see if there's moisture in there, if there's little critters in there or whatever. So it's fascinating to see. And so he's just going to come in and just talk about different kinds of things that you can find in a house. And our other guest is a man by the name of Robert Gregory, and he does insurance. And we're going to talk about life insurance, because one of the things I did not know, and I don't know if you knew this, but for life insurance to be of value to you, I thought you had to die, you know, because then it's passed on to someone else. Is that what you thought? Or did you know?
Until recently, I know that if you're in a nursing home, you can get half of it out after so long in the nursing home.
Right. So I didn't know that about life insurance, that you can get some of it to
now, not
help
all
you buy
policies
things.
are that way.
Right. You got to look at them. But he's going to talk about the advantages of having a life policy, a living policy like that, where you can actually access it while you're alive, which I had no idea. So I thought that was a great idea. So we're going to get educated, because I need to be educated.
I've been reading about it.
Okay, well, good. Well,
the older you get, the more you read.
Exactly, especially about stuff like this, especially about things about, you know, life and death. We read a lot about that. But anyway, all right. Well, I thought it would be fun if we talked about how we got the names of our months. You know, I always like to bring in some little tidbit that I research on. And so I thought I would bring in, why is January called January? Or why is April called April? You know, that's never made sense to me. Who determined these names and why? So the first thing, when I was studying, did you know that the original calendar was only 10 months long?
No.
I didn't know that either. So it was a 10-month calendar, so there were months in there that were extremely long. Well, then they began with this Roman ruler, and I won't try to pronounce his name, but I will say this. In 700 BC, he added January and February to the calendar, because at that time, the calendar started in March. There was no January and there was no February. So the new year, if we just came through what we just came through, the new year would start March 1st.
Why did they make February 28 days?
Well, hang on.
Okay.
All right, so then Julius Caesar came along, and in 46 BC, he reformed the calendar, and he changed the number of days in the calendar for himself. And so we have Julius Caesar to thank for the number of days that we now have within the calendar. So July is named actually after Julius Caesar. July for Julius.
August for Caesar Augustus.
You got it. I can't believe you're on this page. You're so smart.
Yay.
All right, so here we go. January is named after the Roman god Janus, Janus, and he was the god of doors and gateways. So he was kind of new beginnings, I guess, opening new doors. February was named after another Roman god, and it was standing for purification. What I found was interesting is January was a month of celebration, and so February was the month of purification. So you would purify yourself from all the sins that you had just committed in January by being so bad.
But you only had 28 days to purify yourself.
Yeah,
right?
So evidently you have more time to party than you do to purify. But anyway, that's a whole nother issue. But that's how February was named. March was named after the Roman god of war, and the reason is that was given was that March is when the weather starts to warm up. And that's when you can go into battle and kill your enemy. You can't do it in January and February, which the picture I showed you of the snow is proof of that. Who wants to go out and fight in that? But come March 1st, when the weather gets a little warmer, that's a good time to go out and shoot people up, I guess.
So you start marching to war.
Yeah. So I guess in their day it would have been javelins and bows and arrows. But so March is named after Mars, which is the Roman god of war. April is known as Aphrodite's month, and that was the Greek goddess of love and beauty, also associated with the Roman goddess of Venus. So April is all about love. Okay, that makes sense because everybody, gets that spring fever that hits them. May is named after the goddess of spring, when everything begins to bloom and come to life. June, and I thought this was funny, was named after the goddess of marriage, Juno.
It is the marriage month.
Is that not the marriage month?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then we figured out July was Julius Caesar, and you figured out August. I'm so proud of you. And then I think they just ran out of gods, and I think they ran out of days, because September, October, November, and December were just called the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th month, which before the calendars was changed, there were just 10 months. So how about that for some education?
But no clue as to why we call it Sept, Nov, and Oct, and these.
No, they just ran out of names. So I just thought that was fun. September stands for the 7th, October stands for the 8th, like octagon, November stands for 9th, and December stands for 10th. So that's how they came up with them. So there evidently were no good gods after that.
Isn't like decathon, isn't that like 10?
Yeah, you would think so.
Yeah.
All right. And anyway, they did the same thing when they named the days of the week. So I thought, well, let's go a little bit further. Sunday was named after the sun god, Sunday. Monday's named after the moon god, Moon Day. So we're back into the gods. Tuesday was named after a god whose name was Tui, and it was a god of war also. Wednesday is named after the Mercury god, which is the god of commerce and travel. Thursday is named after Jupiter, which stands for lightning and thunder. Friday again is named after love and beauty. Saturday is named after Saturn, Saturn's day. And so there you go.
And whoever spelled Wednesday was messed up when they spelled it.
Yes, well, all of our spellings are messed up if you ask me that. So anyway, there you go. You have now been educated to the months and the days of the year. Whether you wanted to know it or not, you now know it. How do you feel? Good about that?
I feel educated.
You feel educated. We always try to educate you on something that's kind of insignificant so that if you're ever playing Trivial Pursuit, you'll win. That's kind of my goal. All right. Super. Well, all right, we're going to head to a commercial break here. And when we come back, we will have Dan Lindeman with us, and he's going to talk to us all about what's in those walls and what's in your house and what's up. Sound good?
Sounds great to me.
All right, we'll take a break, and we will be right back.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000 bucks. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
Alrighty, welcome back to the show, and as you can tell, we have added someone with us today. This is Dan Lindeman of Tri-State Property Inspections, and so we are glad to have you here today. And I invited him because, honestly, he did something for our office one day, and he started showing us critters inside of walls that he could image, and that just fascinated me and freaked me out at the same time. So I thought, oh, he would be a great guest to have on the show because he can tell you about all these little quirks going on in your house. So, Dan, of course, we know as a real estate agent, we encourage all of our clients to do a home inspection, and that's important. But actually, everybody out there could afford to have a home inspection done on their home if they've been in it for a while.
Oh, yeah.
And there are lots of different reasons, from insulation to critters. And so I'd like for you to kind of address, and I want you to talk a little bit about that imaging thing, but tell us what kind of things you as a home inspector look at when you go into a home.
Sure. Well, when somebody calls me and asks me what do, I kind of say I start from top and go to the bottom, or from the bottom and go to the top. That's really not the order that we do it in, but basically a home inspection goes from the roof down to the foundation. And we look at all the mechanical in between there. We look in your attic, we look for ventilation, we look for insulation. We look whether your attic rafters and truss system is in order, or whether it's been damaged by possibly a falling tree or a heavy snow load. Fortunately, we got cold this last week, but not snow. But then we look at your heating and ventilation system. We check out your bathrooms to see whether there's safety circuits that are in the bathrooms that are supposed to be there. We look in your kitchen for the same thing. We check your stove out, we check your dishwasher out, we check the plug-ins in the bathrooms, or I've already said bathrooms, but in the kitchens, to make sure that they are properly grounded and they have the proper ground fault circuit interrupter protectors on them. And these are all safety things. And then we look for things like moisture. We look for water damage, moisture damage. We look at your windows, tell you whether they're operating. It's important that every bedroom has an operating window. Obviously, you don't want to be in a bedroom and have a crisis or a fire and not be able to get out the window. Of course, I recommend that if you're in that crisis and can't get the window open, you just throw a chair through the window. But don't worry about the window, worry about your life. So we look at those things. We look at life and safety things, such as handrails, stairways without hand railing. Those kind of things are especially important when you're going up and down stairs and carrying things. If you make a misstep and don't have anything to grab, chances are you're going to make a visit to the emergency room. So we look for those things. When we're under your house, we look at the structure of the house. We look at the floor system. We look at the pillars and beams and posts that are under a house. Both crawl spaces and basements all have that same system, just one's a little taller than the other. Mm-hmm. And then we look at moisture penetration, whether or not you've got moisture that's coming in from the outside and moisture that's coming in from the inside. We've actually been under houses where we found a cistern, a well, the hand-dug well under the house. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, I didn't fall into the well, but it was full of water and creating water problems. Huh. So we look for those kind of things. Now, Doc mentioned the camera that I use to look inside of walls. We don't have X-ray vision. Some people think it is, but it's called infrared. Infrared imaging allows us to take thermal signatures of a particular plane. And when we take that thermal image, we can see the temperature differentials down to a hundredth of a degree. And that allows us to see critters in the wall that Doc was talking about. It is interesting to see those critters, but they are, you can see them in the wall. And then you can check for different things such as hot electrical wires, breakers that are bad. You can look for heat and air and ventilation that is disconnected in between the floor and the basement ceiling. That
all stuff that you cannot see with naked eye.
You cannot see that, but with that camera, we can see that. And we bring that camera to every inspection.
Okay.
And so if we've got any questions, we pull the camera out, and it's not a cheap camera. It costs about $3,000.
Yeah.
But we've invested in equipment so that you can get a home inspection that's worth the money you're paying for.
Now, let me ask you a couple questions.
Sure.
Like when you check for moisture, is there a certain level that you can't have the moisture be in your house? Because I know moisture brings in mold, and of course,
Yes.
mold is a big issue. And I've had clients that have had lung damage from living in a house with mold. And so that's one thing we all are afraid of, and I know there are specialists that deal with mold, but can you depict mold, and at what level should you or should you not have moisture in your house, I guess is the question.
Well, that's kind of a variable because different parts of the country are going to create different moisture levels. If we're down in South Florida, we're going to have moisture whether we like it or not. So now we have to look at how do we keep it ventilated properly so that that it doesn't become stagnant moisture.
Okay.
Here in Tennessee, we've got some moist times, and then in the winter, the moisture or the humidity goes down, and moisture should go down also in your crawl space, especially. Up north, it's you don't have as much moisture because you have the colder it gets, the less moisture is airborne, and so it dissipates. But moisture is one of those things that you mentioned mold, and mold is one of those scary words that we've heard many things about it, and mold is a very real issue. But if you can remove moisture, then without moisture, mold cannot grow.
So you recommend people put up a dehumidifier or a fan, or
dehumidifiers have been installed in homes, especially in the crawl spaces where there is some moisture issues, but also vapor barriers. That plastic sheeting that you'll find under many homes, that helps to keep the moisture that is natural moisture that evaporates and comes up out of the soil.
Right.
It keeps that from coming up and then collecting on the base of the house or the framework of the house.
What if they have a basement though, and they have moisture like in the walls or something like that?
Well,
because it may be in Tennessee, you may be on a slope.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and we find that that there is moisture that comes naturally through the soils. You know, it's called groundwater. Okay. And so when you're dealing with groundwater, you have to deal with mitigation. Basically, how do I handle the water that's there? Okay. Because like I tell most of my customers, you're always going to have water. It's how you deal with the water. Okay. And so on a home, we look at gutters. We look at downspouts. We look at whether the downspout doesn't just get the water off the roof, but that it gets it away from the house. Mm-hmm. We like to see a downspout at least 6 feet away from the foundation. And we like to see the soils around the house sloped from 10 feet to the edge of the house. We want to see it about 6 inches higher at the edge of the house than 10 feet away. That keeps that water moving away from the house. And if it moves away, obviously it's not going to go down and along the foundation or the basement. Right. But let's say we do have water. Then we look at the water issue and we try to get the water around the house. Mm-hmm. We create swales or recommend that swales be created. Basically a swale is just a shallow depression that isn't a ditch that you can trip in, but it's just a depression that allows that water to flow around the house. Right. And then if you do have moisture in the house, you know, you've done all those things, you've completed the due process, if you please, then you're going to have to put dehumidifiers in. Mm-hmm. And a dehumidifier basically extracts moisture out of the air and condensates it and then drains it down a waste drain in your home. Sure. And that is important. And many homes, especially basements in this part of the country, need to consider dehumidifiers.
Okay. Now, if someone hasn't been using a dehumidifier, and they have a little bit of mold in their basement, but it's not bad. Is there a way that they personally can get rid of that mold or reduce it down themselves without having to bring in a specialist?
That's an interesting subject.
Thank you.
You know, the mold specialist would say no, there's no way to do that.
Of course.
But there are many residential products available that deal with mildew and fungus and molds.
Okay.
And basically, the box stores do make available some products that are designed to not only kill the mold, but also to put a anti-fungicide that helps to reduce the return of the mold or funguses that you find growing. And, you know, we've had mold since biblical days.
Sure.
You know, we were talking about history in the earlier part about Janus and all the gods that were named after the months of the year. But back in Leviticus, there is actually a regulation on how to deal with mold.
Yes, I have
in
seen
the Old
that.
Testament
Yes.
Levitical law. And so we've had a mold for a long time.
Right.
And it's about dealing with the mold. So there are ways, and mold is something not to be looked at lightly, but at the same time, it's not something that you need to run screaming out of the house from. It is fixable.
Well, you know, I had a friend come by, and my basement smelled a little moldy, so I brought him over, and they do a lot of work in houses and things like that, and they said, well, spray all your walls with bleach water and then put a fan on there. So I did that. Don't know if it helped my mold problem, but my basement smelled like a swimming pool.
Yes.
That's what I learned. I don't know if it
Well,
really helped at all, but it smelled
yeah.
good down there.
Well, I don't claim to be a mold expert.
Right.
But bleach will kill surface mold. But the bleach does not get down into the
wall.
cellulose fibers of wood and
Sure.
and that. So you still you've killed the surface, but you haven't dealt with the spores that are deeper. So
Yeah.
although bleach does clean surface, it's not the cat's meow for
go.
taking care of mold.
There you go. Well, how old does a house need to be before you should give it a home inspection?
I inspect brand new homes.
See, I think you should inspect a brand
Yeah.
new home, but I know a lot of people go, oh, it's brand new, I don't need to. I'm like, yes,
Well,
you do.
I like to tell people this. The building code, if you read the building codes, it's the minimum standard. And so we look for, in a new home, we look for a lot of things that are different than in a used home.
Right.
One
Codes
of the,
change.
Right, but one of the things we look for is really fit and finish. We shouldn't be paying $300,000 for a home and have doors that do not close or do not latch,
Right.
or ventilation systems that have not been completed.
Absolutely.
They said we'll get back to that, but they haven't got back to it.
Sure.
So these are the things we look for in a new home: fit and finish, and projects or ventilation that hasn't been completed. We found a house a few months ago that the plumbing stacks went through the ceiling, but were terminated in the attic. Well, that creates you get sewer gases, methane gas in the attic, and it can get you sick. So
Yeah.
that needs to be ventilated up and out of the house. And so we look for those kind of things in new houses, and unfortunately we find them. Now, we've got some good builders in Cleveland.
Sure.
And
Sure.
we got some good city inspectors and county inspectors, and not to slight them, but sometimes we just get in a hurry. And as a home inspector, I'm that third party that has no vested interest, that goes in and identifies and helps to be that, if you please, the fall guy between the builder and the buyer.
Right.
And
Right.
we're not afraid to offend if we need to offend, but really it's not about offending. It's about helping the builder to pass a home on to the buyer.
Sure.
That is in great order.
Absolutely.
So how often should you have one? Let's say I had one this year. How often should a person have a home inspection?
Actually, the home inspecting industry basically says that every 3 to 5 years you should have a home inspection. And here's the reason. You have maintenance issues. Most people do not crawl underneath their house.
Right.
They don't look underneath the house to find out what's going on under there. So as an inspector, we're willing to do the dirty part of looking at a house.
Sure.
People don't crawl up into their attics. We've been in attics and found bull snakes in the attic, and under the house, and we've found copperheads under houses, and all kinds of different critters. So people don't like to crawl in those dark places.
No, I wouldn't.
But we do, and we find a lot of things, and it helps because eventually you're going to sell your home.
Right.
And it's a lot better to do preventive maintenance
Absolutely.
than it is to deal with deferred maintenance.
Absolutely.
Because if we have a moisture issue, let's say on our door, and this is something I find on a regular basis on the exterior doors, people will put new doors in, and that beautiful white paint that they put on there is a primer.
Right.
but they always say, I'll get back to it.
And then they don't.
And they don't.
Right.
Well, because that's just a primer, the water will run down the door, which is normal, but then it'll collect on the sill plate.
Right.
And then it will rot that door jamb, and it'll start wicking up. And we find that probably on 80% of the homes that we inspect that problems with doors.
I'll bet.
But if you catch it right away, you can clean it, you can caulk it, you can paint it, and it's taken care of.
Great.
But if you don't, then it just gets more rotten, and pretty
Absolutely.
soon you have to replace an entire door. So what was a $10 fix now becomes a $500 door.
And that's where your value is and where you come in. Now, we've got to head to break, and that goes fast, doesn't it? But I would like for you, Dan, to just let them know your phone number, your website, or how they can contact you. And whether you're buying a home or whether you've just been in your home, maybe you've been in your home 15, 20 years and you've never had it inspected, it might be something worth contacting Dan about. So if you give them your contact information, Dan, that would be great.
Sure, I'd be glad to. My phone number, you can contact me at 423-559-9495. And that's the office number, and if I'm not in the office, it will ring to my cell, so that's the best number. You can find me on the internet at www.tri-statepropertyinspections.com. That's tri-statepropertyinspections.com. And if you want to email me, you can email me at tristatepropertyinspections@gmail.com. Just take that hyphen out of the tri-dash, because Gmail doesn't like dashes.
There you go.
But we'll be glad to talk to you.
Great. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and I hope you've learned a lot. And if you need any inspection done on your house, or if you have questions about things or noises in your house, please feel free to call Dan. As a realtor, I've used him. I've used several home inspectors, but he's one I've used several times, and I personally just love his camera. That's what I'm all about. But it tells a lot of things. So I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you.
And we will be back after the break with Robert Gregory, and we will be talking about life insurance. So stay tuned and come back.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000 bucks. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
Are you having trouble filing for disability?
Seems no one is concerned about your pain, the waiting, the denials.
While some representatives will meet with you in court, we will meet with you now to discuss your plan. We'll review with you the same file that the judges will see. Call us now. Social Security Law Center at Logan Thompson.
You're entitled to better.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
Alrighty, we are back, and we are now with our guest, Robert Gregory of Great Harvest. He sells insurance and many, many other things which we don't have time to go into today. But Robert and I were talking earlier, and we were talking about life insurance policies and annuities, and then I kind of got lost. So I decided to bring him onto the show because, as I was explaining to Regina, and we were talking earlier, we always thought that life benefits were at death, and so we want you to explain to us how we can utilize that without having to die.
Right.
How about that
that's the big thing about that keeps people from buying life insurance is they don't feel like they get any benefit out of it.
Exactly.
They feel like it's going to their, and responsible adults normally have it because they want to take care of their spouse or their children or maybe their grandchildren. But they feel somewhere in the back of their minds, they say, I'm not really getting anything out of this.
Right.
But now you can. The insurance companies have gotten fairly creative and given some living benefits to policyholders now.
Okay.
For a long time, you've had the terminal illness benefit, and that's if you've got 2 years or less to live, they'll give you a very large chunk of your death benefit in advance, so you can complete your bucket list or take off work and spend time with your family, that sort of thing. It's just there for you. You don't have to take it, but you can if you want to.
Now, with that life insurance, can you determine the size of the policy you want, or does the insurance people determine that for you?
You can buy a $5,000 policy or a $5 million or a $10 million policy.
Really?
It's based on what you can afford, what your insurable need is, because there's some limits. They won't sell you a $10 million policy if you make $30,000 a year.
Gotcha.
Because it would more than replace your income. So there are some limits, but it's basically what can you afford and what makes sense for you to have.
Okay.
And you can combine benefits. You can have a term life benefit while you're young and while the children are in school. And when they graduate and become 20-year-olds, then your term insurance can expire and you can rely on your whole life or your universal life type policy to carry you through burial and terminal illness if that occurs.
Does anyone ever use up that life insurance policy while they're living on themselves and never turn it into something for?
There are ways to do that. You can actually supplement your retirement with proceeds from your cash value life insurance. Okay, so you fund this policy for several years and you build up your cash value. It can be based on a set rate of interest, or it can be indexed to a market-based interest like the Dow Jones or the S&P 500. But there's guaranteed that you won't ever lose money. And every year you get a
You won't lose it like the stock market.
No,
that's
it's never at risk in the stock market.
Okay, well that's good to know.
And then as you build these funds, you can borrow them out of the policy. And there's the nice thing is it's income tax free. You don't have to ask anybody's permission. You pick up the phone and call the insurance company or call your agent and say, I'd like to get an advance or a loan on my cash value, whatever it is. And you can use those monies for whatever you want. There's no qualifying. And if you decide to pay it back, you pay yourself back, and then your cash value grows, and your death benefit grows.
But you don't have to pay it back.
You do not have to pay it back. So it'll come out of your death benefit once you pass. But if you want to blow it on a boat or a lake home or whatever it is that's your heart's desire, you can spend that money any way you like, and nobody can tell you how. And the proceeds are income tax free.
Now, is the money before you put it in there, is it taxed?
Yes, typically you fund a life insurance policy with after-tax dollars.
Gotcha.
So there's no, if you get a tax break by putting the money into an account, you're going to have to pay taxes down the road.
Yes.
That's an IRA, an SEP, 401k. Most of those, unless it's a Roth 401k or Roth IRA, you're going to have to pay taxes on it when you take it out. So if you have, say, $1 million 401k, you don't really have $1 million because the government wants
Unless it's a Roth, and then you would.
Unless it's a Roth.
Okay.
Exactly
Okay,
right.
just making sure.
So, other living benefits besides terminal illness and cash value are chronic illness benefits, which helps you if you have a long-term care situation. Say you've got, say arthritis, and you can't get your clothes on anymore by yourself, and you can't feed yourself.
Okay.
Those are two activities for daily living, clothing and feeding.
Right.
There are some others. There's about 5 or 6 activities for daily living. And if you can't perform 2 of the 5, then you can take some of your money out of your life insurance policy. And it's normally about 2% a month of the face value. So if you have a $300,000 policy, you're going to be able to use about $6,000 a month for long-term care. So that's if somebody comes into your home to help you, or if you go into a skilled nursing facility, nursing home.
So how does that compare to long-term health care? I mean, it
is not meant to completely replace long-term care insurance.
Okay.
Because it's going to last you about 4 years, roughly.
Oh,
ballpark.
Okay.
Okay, so if you're in the nursing home for 10 years, then you're going to be out of gas after 3 or 4 years.
Gotcha.
If
Because
you
you've
use the
spent
full
it.
benefit. Right.
Does this apply to those who bought policies years ago, or is this just
It has
the
to be
newer
a feature
policy?
of your policy.
Okay.
It is newer. In the last couple of years, they've added
That's
these.
what I wondered.
Yeah. So, and you can always, if you're in fairly decent health and still insurable, trade one policy for another. It's called a 1035 tax-free exchange. So you can take the cash value out of policy A, put it in policy B. You pay your cost of insurance based on your age and your current health status. Okay, and then you can build cash value with an index, or you can have the chronic or illness benefit, or the critical illness benefit, or terminal illness benefit, or the cash value. Those are the 4 ways you can use your money before you die.
And that's good to know. Is there an age at which you can no longer get a policy like this? Like, you're too old and it won't really build up?
It starts to get really expensive in your early 60s. So if you can get a policy by the time you're 64, that's a good time to get a policy.
So up until 64, you think that's a good time?
Right, and now it's the sooner you start, the cheaper it is.
Yeah, but like, I'm 53. If I got one today, wouldn't it go up again on me at age 55 and
Your
then
cost
again
of
at age
insurance
60?
is based on your current age, yes. But in order to offset that, you have the cash value buildup. Okay, so you pay a regular premium, or you can pay a lump sum premium. So a lot of people are doing this. They're taking their 401k and IRA money and funding a lump sum life insurance policy that has cash value. They're paying the taxes, getting into these tax-free vehicles that allow them to transfer monies, their legacy monies, to their children and grandchildren. So yes, you're right, the cost on any kind of universal life policy goes up. Now a whole life policy stays level. The premium stays level for the rest of your life. It's a whole life policy. Now a term life is just good for a term. In your 60s, you're lucky if you can buy a 10-year policy.
Really?
Very few people will sell you a 20-year policy if you're 65, because the average life expectancy is somewhere in the early 80s. So that if you're statistically out of it, then they don't want to sell you insurance coverage to cover you when you're 82 or 83. That's on a term policy. But a cash value policy, you can use it to age 121. Should you turn 121 and you're still alive, they'll endow the policy. They'll give you the face value in cash.
Wow.
So that's some incentive.
That is
To
something.
live to your 121.
Yeah.
And some endow at age 100, some at 90, and gets the rates down. But you want to be sure you know what that is before you buy your policy.
Right. Because otherwise you could find yourself in quite a mess.
There's a lot to it. So you need to have a trusted advisor that's willing to shoot you straight, that isn't too hungry and in a hurry to get a commission based on your sale.
Right.
You need somebody that knows what they're doing, and that'll take the time to explain every detail to you.
Now, like, I know you're allowed to put into like I think a Roth IRA or an IRA 6,500 or 6,900 or something like that a year, and that's all you're allowed to do. Can you put into something like this on top of that, or is that included as being all-inclusive?
No, it's not a tax avoidance vehicle or tax deferral vehicle. It is an after-tax vehicle, If you want to put $5,000 a month into it or $100,000
Okay.
lump sum, that's up to you.
So it's different than those
Totally
IRAs
different.
in that respect.
Rich people have been using life insurance and annuities for over 100 years to maintain their lifestyles of their family long after they're gone. So it only takes 1 or 2 generations to become ultra wealthy. So if you have a $5 million policy, you pass and you give it to your children and grandchildren and stipulate how they can use it, then maybe they'll be smart, buy their own policies and continue that wealth within the family.
Now, why don't you hear more about this? Because you hear about the stock markets, you hear about bonds, you hear about annuities. The first time I heard you speak about this, I was like, how come I have never heard anything like this so that I could have taken advantage of it years ago?
Right. There's a lot of marketing money that goes into advertising for banks and brokerage firms. And there's a lot for insurance companies too, but it's just life. They want, it's more of a brand awareness. They don't go into a lot of detail on television because there's a large list of disclaimers that they'd have to put out. So you need to talk with an agent and get everything in writing first before you make that decision. I don't know how they would effectively market it. I think they like the brand awareness, like Prudential or ING, name brands that we've all heard about.
Sure.
But any of those brands we have access to as an independent broker. Just about any independent broker will have access to any number of carriers.
So if we wanted to, let's say Regina wanted to hop into one of these policies with you, you would shop around to different companies for her?
There are certain companies that we like because they have better rates. And I'll tell you the secret to that is if they don't advertise, they have better rates because they don't spend money sponsoring a football stadium or advertising during halftime at the Super Bowl.
Okay.
So your big companies like Pacific Life, Prudential, Transamerica, they all have brand awareness campaigns, and it costs millions of dollars a year. But if you go with a company like Midland or North American, it's still A+ rated, very top of the food chain rated, but they don't advertise, so their rates, the benefits within the policy are actually better than some of the bigger name brands.
Okay, so let's take Regina as our example again, if you don't mind. And let's say she decides to buy this policy and she wants to keep it. She could probably get it for 20 years.
Now, if you buy a cash value policy or a universal or index universal, it'll last until you're 121.
Well, what would be a good payment for someone, say around 53, that wants to get something like this and be able to utilize it down the road? What would be a good amount or a good payment? Or
we try to look at budget. What is comfortable for your budget?
Okay.
And the older you get, the more you need to slap in it because your cash value is going to fizzle on you if you don't put enough in. A young person, I just wrote a gentleman that's early 30s, and he's going to have a nice policy at $200 a month.
Okay.
But I would say early 50s, early 60s, if you're not doing $300 or $400 a month, maybe $500 a month, you're not going to get a lot out of it. Okay, so you would have the insurance, cash value, face value, all the benefits that you would experience before death, but you may not have a giant cash value to retire on. It's like anything. The earlier you start, time value of money grows, the nest egg for you.
Right.
So, but I have clients that'll do $5,000 a month.
Really?
Because they've maxed out their 401ks or they're not eligible.
Sure.
They don't have an IRA. They're wealthy. They want to transfer assets to the next generation, and they'll buy multiple policies with multiple vendors and have these huge face values so they can perpetuate the wealth within their family. And it's highly leveraged.
That wouldn't be one of my issues.
Yeah, and it does really depend on your goal. If your goal is just to have some money so that every 4 or 5 years you can buy a new car, you can do that. You can set up a plan that says, hey, I want to have $10,000 or $20,000 every 4 years, and then you pay yourself back once you borrow the money out. You pay yourself back with interest. Cash value grows, death benefit grows, and then you're ready to go again in a couple of years.
I know we started with each of the kids when they were born. One of those, it's just like a $25,000 policy, but it's cheap and it never goes up.
Right.
It was like $10 a person. I think I paid $30 a month for 3, but I think the cash value maybe is, I can't read what it means actually,
Right.
but.
Well, that's a good point.
If someone died, $30,000, but if I need money small amount, I can go in and get it. I know that to help out with the college or whatever.
Sure.
But and I think those are good ideas when a child is born to
Right.
get one of those
Well,
type
Walt
of policies.
Disney, creator of the Walt Disney Studios, and J.C. Penney, James Cash Penney, of the department store fame, they both funded some of their business with cash value life insurance.
Isn't that something?
So they've been using it for a long, long time.
That's awesome.
To protect wealth.
That's awesome. Well, we got to run to a commercial break. Robert, you stay there. We'll come back and wrap up with Robert. So let's head to a break, and we'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Town Americana, where trucks are big and bold, and a handshake is firm, and your word is gold. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens is a $2,000 drive. Maybe you're coming from here or here, doesn't matter. Buying a truck from Don Ledford in Athens will save you at least $2,000. Don Ledford Chevy Buick GMC in Athens, a $2,000 drive worth making.
I'll take that drive every time.
At Crawford Pharmacy, we offer custom compounding. Our pharmacists are known for their attention to detail and unique expertise. So visit us at 2260 Chambliss Avenue, Cleveland, Tennessee. For personal assistance, walk right in or come up to our convenient drive-thru. Crawford Pharmacy, serving our community one person at a time.
Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast in Cleveland, is the place to find quality pre-owned cars and trucks. Kyle offers on-the-spot financing on all vehicles on the lot. Each pre-owned vehicle goes through a complete inspection to make sure each car and truck meets the Kyle Motors standard. Warranty and extended warranties available on all vehicles. Kyle Motors will sell you a car or truck that you will be proud to drive for many years to come. See Tony, Bill, Dale, James, or David and let them put you in your next quality pre-owned vehicle. Kyle Motors, 802 20th Street Southeast. Phone 790-7100.
Are you having trouble filing for disability?
Seems no one is concerned about your pain, the waiting, the denials.
While some representatives will meet with you in court, we will meet with you now to discuss your plan. We'll review with you the same file that the judges will see. Call us now. Social Security Law Center at Logan Thompson.
You're entitled to better.
This segment of Tennessee Valley This Morning is brought to you by Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, located at 511 South Lee Highway in Cleveland and 2120 Chapman Road, Chattanooga. For your next new or previously owned vehicle, make it Crown Chrysler Dodge Jeep and Ram, the better way to buy.
Okay, we are back, and we wanted to make sure that we gave Robert a chance to explain one thing we didn't get a chance to touch on the previous segment, and that was dealing with this policy with people with critical illnesses like cancer and things like that.
If we
how
circle
that's
back to
beneficial.
living benefits, another living benefit of a life insurance policy is that you can use a portion of the face value if you have a heart attack, stroke, diagnosed with cancer. And there's a list of 4 or 5 things that happen to you that are major things that happen in your life that cause you to miss work and damage your family's income, and you might get a check for 20 or 30 or 50,000 in a lump sum, comes off your death benefit, but you can use it before you die to keep you from going in the poorhouse if you have that situation. So there's a lot of people that have minor heart attacks, and that would trigger the critical illness benefit, and you could get a check, and that way you don't have to worry about hurrying back to work. You can take the time, convalesce, get better, and then go back to work, and with the money that comes from your life insurance policy.
I would think that would be a huge benefit for someone that has a stroke or something like that, where over time they will get better.
It's peace of mind, and it takes a small amount, a fraction of your death benefit. So the balance of your death benefit is there for your loved ones should you pass or when you pass.
And again, if you pull that out, you don't have to pay it. You don't have to pay it back in.
There's no repayment.
It maybe shrinks what goes to your children, but it still gives you opportunity to cover your own needs.
Money you can
Right.
live on today.
Right.
If you have that problem.
So a person can bring they've had their policy for 30 years. You would suggest they see you, sit down, go over.
Every couple of years, it's good
Yeah.
to get a review because beneficiaries change. You know, people come and go from your family sometimes, so it's a good idea to review that. Maybe you don't like such and such grandchild anymore, or who they married.
Well, I just found out, well, my husband of 21 years passed away. Well, when I was just recently going over things, he passed away 4 years ago, and he's still beneficiary on half my stuff.
You're right. So where would it go if something
right.
happened to you?
So
those
are the
kind of things you need
People
to be
don't
aware
think
of.
of that.
Things you got to know.
Especially if you get divorced.
Yeah.
Because if you leave the ex on the policy, the ex is going to get the money.
Absolutely.
It's been all the way to the
Absolutely.
Supreme Court. You can't reverse it.
Well, Robert, tell our audience here how they can contact you. Give them a phone number, information on how to
Sure.
contact you, if you would, please.
Our office number is 423-305-7877. And I don't always do this, but I'll give your viewers my personal cell number.
Okay.
At risk to my battery. It's 423-827-3647.
Great. So I would encourage you, this is interesting information. It's things that I had never known or heard of until Robert gave a talk with a group I was in. And so it's fascinating and I think very good material to know. So please give him a call. He's a very good, honest, reputable man. I can vouch for him in that respect. I think Regina's going to grab his card and talk to him. So please do follow up with him. Also, again, if you're looking to check into your house, give Dan Lindeman a call. And lastly, I just want to say, if you are interested in that little house that I have for sale, that we showed you at the beginning of the show.
Or if you want to sell a house.
Yes, or yeah, by all means, if you want to sell a house, please give me a call. You do know my slogan, if you want opportunity to knock, you talk to Doc. So we thank you so much for joining us today. Regina, did you learn some things today?
I did. I learned a lot.
I always educate her. I'm so proud. and she's such a good student, you know, because she's always been the teacher, but now she's a student. But we appreciate you joining us, and Regina and I will see you next month, and we'll look forward to it. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.